What's going on, guys? Will here from Sky Ultimate, and today I am bringing you the ultimate 101 guide on how to become a handler. The transition from kind of being a new player and cutting and wanting to try out handling is a pretty big one, and it's a large adjustment, and there's a lot of different things that you need to consider, kind of seeing the field from a different perspective and using a completely new skill set. So this video is going to kind of teach you what your objectives should be, what you should try to do, how you should move around the field, and ultimately what do you need to do, what do you need to learn in order to progress to being a better handler and contributing more to your team's success. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, to kind of preface this video, especially as a new handler, there are two main things that you need to keep in mind that are kind of your job and your objective when you're on the field as a handler, and that's to facilitate the movement of the disc and to be a consistent thrower. Now, a lot of people, when they think of handlers, usually they'll think of somebody on their team that is an exceptional handler who really does a lot with their throws, and they try to model their play after the play of those handlers. And the thing is that's not always what you need from every handler. Most handlers, especially newer handlers, the way you fit into the offense is just someone who helps the disc move down the field and is someone who makes the easy throws and the open throws more consistently. And so you don't really need to be throwing 40, 50-yard hucks. You don't need to be throwing crazy blades or hammers. Really, what being a good handler means, especially as you're just stepping into the role, is just being consistent, making the right decisions, and doing that over and over and over again to help the disc move down the field and not turn it over. Another pitfall I see new handlers try to kind of fall into is they think of handlers as people who touch the disc a lot. And while this is true, really touching the disc more just comes as a byproduct of being around the disc more. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make moves to try to get the disc more often. And I think this makes people kind of make bad cuts, early cuts, and unnecessary cuts that clog the offense rather than spread it out and keep it moving. So as a new handler, let the touches come to you. Be in the right position, and you will get the disc. Don't try to force cuts into space when you think you need to get your hands on the disc, because more often than not only are you not going to get the disc and you're not going to be open, but you're just not going to be in the right spot, and you're probably going to prevent other people from moving the offense down the field. What's up, guys? Really quick interruption. I'm currently editing this video, and I just wanted to throw a note in there. I say the word reset a lot, and really what I mean when I say reset is when the stall count is getting high, the cut that a thrower is usually looking for is just something quick near the disc, like a shorter pass. It can even be a one that loses yards, but just to reset the stall count, throw it to somebody else so that we're not in stall trouble. We're not at like stall 5, 6, or 7 because we've given it to a new person. We reset the stall count. That's really all I'm talking about. So carry on. All right. So this section of the video is going to talk about my 3 main principles of handler cutting. So really what we're talking about here is when you're in the backfield, but you don't have the disc, and where should you be to position yourself to either get the disc when the thrower looks, for a reset, or be ready to kind of be in that spot. So my first main principle is don't cut until you are initiated. So if you remember what I was talking about before with cutting too early or cutting too much in order to get the disc, well, this is what I was talking about. If number 1 is looking upfield at either 5 or 4 to get open, and number 2 just comes screaming in for an upline without the thrower really knowing what's going on, well, first of all, they're not going to get thrown to, because by the time number 1 even sees number 2, they're basically going to be already out in front of them. And throwing this now would be incredibly difficult because you have to lead them out to space all the way out here, which is hard to do. And at the second time, usually a thrower needs to see an option and say, okay, I'm going to throw to this, and then make the right throw. Whereas if they don't even recognize you're there until you're right in front of them, they're probably just going to look this off. The other reason why this is bad is now you are standing in front of every option that they could possibly throw to, and because you are standing there, your defender is also. And so you have just shut off all of this thrower's main options downfield. And finally, the third reason, if this wasn't bad enough, is that they don't have a handler. There's nobody now on this entire left side of the field that they can look at for a reset. So if they look at number 3 for a reset now, and number 3 isn't able to get open, they're basically screwed, because their only other option for a cut here just kind of made an early cut and is now cleared out and not able to be thrown to anymore. So Wait until the thrower is done looking downfield. They are going to turn and face you, right? So now they are looking in this direction, and you can make either your upline when the throw is ready to throw it to you, or you go for a reset, and the thrower will hit you on a swing, and everything's good. Okay, let's give the disc back to number 1 here. Actually, let's move it to the sideline, yeah. So let's say we're on the sideline here. The best or the worst thing you can do, the best thing you can do is to give the thrower space. The worst thing you can do is to be right on top of the thrower. So let's say we're number 1 here as a handler. What we want to do is always give this thrower space to throw to us. We want to be far enough away from them to where when we cut, this is a nice, easy throw that they can put out to space. If we are right here, it's very difficult unless you really just want to go for this tiny dishy. And the worst place to set up is right behind them, because not only is this a really terrible throw, and this doesn't really do much, but if your defender is really on top of you, now this thrower essentially has a double team on them. There's 2 people right around them, making it impossible for them to really step out in any direction and make a real throw. So what I want you to realize is that the best place to set up is about 10 to 15 yards away from the handler, roughly to the side of them. And if you're another handler, let's just say you're coming in from far in the backfield from whatever reason, let's say the disc is moving up the field pretty fast, you don't want to get into the space. If this reset is already in position, you running up behind them or you running in here is absolutely terrible. You want to stay far away from here, give this thrower space, give the reset space, and keep your defender out of this play. Okay, third principle. So first principle, don't cut until you're initiated. Second principle, give the thrower space and then give the main reset space. And the third is be ready to fill into this main reset handler space. So when I say main reset, this would be like the first person that this thrower is going to look at when they need an option in the backfield. So if they're done looking at the cutters aren't being able to get open for whatever reason, this thrower, again, is going to look at this handler and wait for them to make a cut. And that's going to be the way they get their disc out of their hands. So if this player, number 1, makes an upline cut and doesn't get the disc, you need to be ready as handler number 2 to kind of step into this spot. And now you are ready to, again, make that same decision, make that same cut. Because if you're not here and you're not ready, if this person isn't open and doesn't get thrown to, number 3 now has 0 options. So always ensuring that there is somebody in position to make the next reset cut and fill in that main reset handler space is really, really important. So those are the 3 things to keep in mind when you are cutting in the handler space. Okay, so on top of having good handler spacing and good handler cutting, it's also really important to know when you do have the disc. So again, let's say we're number 1 here. What kind of throws are we mostly going to be looking for, especially as a newer handler? And the 3 throws that you should always keep in mind as your main 3 options are an under, a swing, and an upline. Those are the 3 throws that you need to be super comfortable with making in any situation. So, of course, notice I did not say the huck, by the way. Hucking is not a necessary skill for a handler. There are plenty of handlers who really don't huck all that much unless something is completely wide open and they absolutely know they have it. But you really don't need to be able to throw hucks, and especially if you aren't confident in your ability to throw hucks, don't throw them. You don't have to throw it. Just a note. Anyway, so our 3 throws are unders, swings, and uplines. So for an under, obviously, cutter cuts under. We want this to be a flat throw, straight. We don't want it to float, nothing like that. We just want it to go straight to our target and hit them in the chest. This is the most basic kind of throw. It's also one of the most common that gets messed up. Okay? When you're throwing an under, step out, release it quickly, because you don't want to get hand blocked, but just make sure this is a steady, consistent release throw. Don't try to do anything fancy here, and don't rush the process. Okay, nice, easy under throw. For swings, a lot of times you are going to need to break the mark. So if number 2 is your primary reset, they step up here, they're getting ready to make their reset cut, and they make their reset cut. Number 1, your defender here, is marking you. You need to be able to get this throw out and around to space, which requires you to step out around your mark. Okay, and if you cannot do that, then you're not going to be a successful handler because you will basically get stuck anytime your reset is on the break side of the field. So being comfortable breaking the mark, stepping wide to get around your mark and throw these floaty arounds to space. Can be a tricky throw, but as long as you get it up with enough float and just put it to the space, number 2 will always be able to run onto it, which should pretty much always be a solid throw and a completion. Losing yards here is okay. You need, however, to be able to break the mark and get it out to space and try to make it an easy catch. And finally, you have uplines. Now, uplines come in all shapes and sizes. Someone could make a really long upline that you just kind of throw straight to them. Someone could make this really chippy, short upline if they're being forced under by their defender and you just kind of flip it to them. And they also could be making a fairly short upline with their defender behind them, in which case you want to float it out in front of them to space so that they can run onto it. All of these throws are very common and very necessary, especially the floaty one can be very tricky if you're trying to put it out in front of them and kind of have it sit there. These are all throws that you need to practice and you need to be comfortable throwing. And the key to them is really just putting a lot of spin on the disc. That's something that's very important. So when you're throwing, focus on putting a lot of spin on the disc. That will greatly improve your consistency as a thrower, and it'll help you throw in the wind as well, which is cool. So those are all the 3 types of throws that you need to be practicing as a handler. Again, hucks are not a big deal. You don't really need to practice your hucks that much. Get really good at throwing unders. Get really good at throwing swings and breaking the mark. And get really good at throwing uplines. And I promise you, your success as a handler will absolutely, tremendously increase just from getting really good at throwing those 3 things. All right, the final thing I want to talk to you about is how what you should be thinking about, your mindset as a handler, especially when you're a new handler. Don't try to be a hero. Same thing with don't try to win with your throws. Don't try to touch the disc all the time. Just make the right decision. Every time the disc touches your hands, your goal should be to get it out of your hands to the receiver safely. If you can't find anything downfield, be mindful of looking for a reset early. If a team is playing really good defense and shutting down your handler sets, look earlier so that you have more time to get someone open and keep the disc alive. That should be your only goal, is to not turn the disc over as much as absolutely possible. And once you get comfortable in that, once your throws develop and you're able to do a little bit more with the disc and you know how to play very safe, then you can start taking calculated risks and understanding different types of more difficult throws. But start with a base of not turning the disc over, learning your basic throws and getting them down so well that you never miss them. And that will make you an absolutely great handler. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a lot in this video. I hope you try these things out, especially my guys that are trying to become handlers. It's a difficult process. It's a long process because it's such a different role from being a cutter, and it comes with a lot more responsibility. But if you have the throws, I know you're capable of it. Keep working, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.